7.4, you're not being asked to solve anything. But based on the work that you did with transformations as we were preparing for the second half of the unit, what you are being asked to do is to look at an equation and tell everything you can. And the equation is in different forms at times. So the things you're looking for are, can you tell what the roots or zeros are? Can you tell what the vertex is? Can you tell whether this thing opens up or down? And then what's the scale factor? So is it a vertical stretch or is it a vertical shrink? And not every form of the equation can you tell all of these. Each form of the equation has has different combinations of things that you can tell. You will be expected on the test to be able to look at an equation and pull out the pertinent information that could be reasonably assumed to be known from that equation. So when I'm looking at an equation in standard form, I look and I say, okay, it is in this form. If I graph it, this is what I get. But looking at the equation itself, I can't tell what the vertex is. I can look at the graph of this and see that the vertex is at +5, -2, but there's nothing just looking at this equation that's going to tell me that part. So what I can actually tell from the equation is that this parabola opens up because the coefficient of the x squared is positive, and that it has a stretch factor of 2 because the coefficient of the x squared is 2. That's all I really know. I can't tell what the vertex is. I can't tell if I look at the roots here, it crosses the x-axis at 4 and 6. I can't tell that just by looking at it. But what I can tell just from the equation is that it opens up and that it has a stretch factor of 2. So I would say it opens up and has a stretch factor of 2 because the coefficient of x squared is +2. So that's where I got that from. So if I'm asked to write a complete sentence about what I know and why I know it, it opens up and it has a stretch factor of 2 because the coefficient of x squared is +2. Now in intercept form, you can see the vertex is at +1, -9, and you don't see that anywhere in this equation, y equals x minus 4 times x plus 2. It has intercepts, x-intercepts of -2 and +4. Oh, while it's -2 and +4, I can actually see that in this equation. The reason, as you saw at different points when we were looking at these, that it works that way is because when we find the intercepts, it's when y is 0. So we have 0 equals x minus 4 times x plus 2. So if x minus 4 equals 0, I would add 4 to both sides to get x equals +4, which is why it crosses the x-axis at +4. If x plus 2 equals 0, I would subtract 2 from both sides to get x equals -2, which is why I can see it crosses the x-axis at -2. So I also know if I multiplied these two together, I would take the x times the x to get x squared. There's a +1 out here, so the coefficient of x would be a +1. So it opens up, and again, I'm saying what I could tell from the equation, not what I know by looking at the graph. So it opens up, and coefficient of x squared is positive. It doesn't have a stretch or shrink factor because the coefficient of x squared is 1. And I can tell from the factors that the x-intercepts, or zeros as they are called, the zeros are positive 4 and negative 2. And last but not least is in vertex form. Notice the vertex is at positive 4, positive 6, and I can see that 4 and 6 in here. If this 6 was over with the y, as it usually starts out, it would have been a minus 6. So, it opens down with a shrink factor of 0.5 because the coefficient of x squared is negative 0.5. The negative tells me it opens down. The 0.5 being less than 1 tells me that this is a shrink factor. It is in vertex form, so I can see the vertex is positive 4, positive 6. Now, how do I find the vertex of a parabola if I know the roots? For example, in the graph of the parabola for this, the roots are 2 and 4. What is the vertex? Well, we talked about that in class. Average the x-intercepts together, which is the roots, the x-intercept values together, to find the x value of the vertex. So, the x value of the vertex, that's what that little subscript of v is going to tell me. I would take the 2 plus 4 and divide it by 2 to say the x value of the vertex is 3. Then, substitute the x value of the vertex for x in the equation, and solve for y. So, y equals 2 times 3 squared minus 12 times 3 plus 16. Now, 3 squared is 9 times 2 is 18 minus 12 times 3 is 36 plus 16. So y equals 18 minus 36 is negative 18 plus 16 is negative 2. So my vertex is the point 3, negative 2.